happiness. Happiness is the key to success. If you love what you're doing, then you will be successful. Welcome to RedTales, an initiative by the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Development Center of Rajagiri School of Engineering and Technology, which gives the budding entrepreneurs an insight to the lives and moving tales of successful entrepreneurs. For the third session of RedTales, we have an engineer turned entrepreneur who left his job from the top-notch IT firm Microsoft to start his own business in his hometown in Kerala. We are extremely happy to have Mr. James Joseph, founder of Jackfruit 365 and author of God's Own Office. A technocrat with a penchant for fine and healthy food experiences, he retells his unexpected encounter which led him to reimagine Jackfruit as the messiah for diabetes and digestive health. Let's listen to his words of wisdom.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, and I'm so glad to be with students. And in fact, it's supposed to be Onam holidays right now, right? And I'm glad that so many of you are here. We are going through especially for students, we are going through a very different year altogether. I still remember, my college days, engineering college days in CET. It is being with friends is what was the best part of college life. And this year, most of us are, unable to be part of that. I got 3 girls, and I can feel how they feel when they have to be at home. Okay, but these are especially these webinars are a great way to bring people together, given the current conditions, as well as to meet people from different faculty as well as from outside. So I congratulate the team behind RedTales for this initiative. I've seen the interview with Mr. Joseph. So, kudos to you. And first of all, thank you to Nadine Matthew, who invited me for this session. I was a bit reluctant, but I think she convinced me. Okay, so with that, what I will do, as the brief I've been given, I will give you an overview about my journey and spare most of the time for Q&A. So Anita, with that, I'll just give an overview about myself. As most of you are in engineering college from different parts of Kerala as well as rest of India. Rajagiri is a great institution. I've come there many times. I grew up in a village in Kerala. In fact, I look at 3 places when I look back at my childhood days. One place is Peravam, which is in Ernakulam district, a place surrounded by a river. I now live in Alua, and Peravam has the Muatupura. And then my father's side, our house is in a place near Kuttatukulam. And then my father's work was mostly in Kottayam. So I spent a lot of my childhood days in Kottayam town. So Kottayam town, a place near Kuttatukulam called Velayannur. Velayannur is predominantly a rubber area, rubber plantations, as well as we have ginger and turmeric, and then coconut and mainly rubber. Okay, whereas Peravam has more paddy field. It's more low-lying area next to a river, so paddy fields and a lot of fruit-bearing trees. So I grew up in a village predominantly surrounded by many churches and temples. So I was part of many of the festivals. What I call my childhood, my first 20 years in my life, is what I called a life surrounded by nature, spirituality, many generations of friends and families, and farm or agricultural land close by. So that's where I grew up, and I used to call that my Bharati phase of my life, which is it's like riding an elephant. Slow. It's being it's everything is very peaceful and quiet and slow. Okay, but that's like riding an elephant. but it is safe and secure. It is slow but safe and secure. So you can soak up everything what goes around you. So it gets to absorb a lot more. And then I got my biggest break in my engineering entrance examination, and I got selected at College of Engineering Trivandrum for mechanical engineering. It was the biggest turning point in my career or in my educational phase. And then post engineering college, I did my mechanical engineering. Then I went to Delhi, started in manufacturing in the automotive industry. Then I got my next break at a company called 3M. It's a multinational company. I moved from manufacturing to sales there and did really well. And both in manufacturing as well as in sales, I was able to perform well, even though I was not sure whether I could perform as an engineer when I went out of college. I was a reluctant engineer, or I felt that I did not do enough justice to my education when I was in college. But once I started working, everything came through, and then I was able to show results in my work. So both in the manufacturing in the automotive industry as well as in sales at 3M, I was lucky to get good performance. And then that is when I made the major turning point in my life. I read a newspaper article, what does it take to be a global manager? And most of this is in my book, if anybody wants to know, and I will just glance over it. It was in Times of India Ascent. I read an article, what does it take to be a global manager? Okay, and this is one point I mentioned to mention about my childhood dreams and aspiration. To see the world was my aspiration. I wanted to see the world, to travel and experience. Especially living in a village, you dream of how are things outside. How is this whole world? Okay, so when I was at 3M, I read this newspaper article. What does it take to be a global manager? And the requirements were, you must have an internationally recognized degree so that people recognize your qualification. And then you should have worked in 3 large markets in the world. So requirements were, internationally recognized degree, 3 large market experience in multinational companies where your experience is recognized around the world. Okay. So I was already working in India for a multinational company, 3M. I did not have an internationally recognized degree. So I only had 1 market experience, 1 multinational company. So then I started applying for higher education. And I was lucky to get admitted to University of Warwick in United Kingdom for engineering business management. And I went to University of Warwick, did my master's, and then unfortunately I couldn't find a job there. Came back, went to the US to visit my brother. There was just a visiting visa, and then while I was there, I was hired by a company called I2 Technologies in supply chain management. That was the project I did when I was studying in Warwick. I was analyzing the supply chain between 3M and Ford Motor Company. And that was considered as a good experience and good exposure for a supply chain management role in US. But unfortunately, the visa didn't come through, so I had to come back. Finally, the visa came through, and I went to the American consulate. They refused to give me the visa. So 2 years later, I had no job. Finally, I joined Ford Motor Company in Chennai. And a year later, I got the visa, and then I went to the US. And then, I started working for supply chain management in the US. And then I moved into marketing. So by the time I moved from automotive industry to IT sector. In IT sector, I worked there for 2 companies, I2 Technologies and then Informatica, as the product marketing manager. And then, so by this time I completed 3.5 years in North America, working for a global role based out of US. I had US market experience, India market experience, University of Warwick, well-recognized international degree. I needed 1 more large market experience. So I asked Informatica for a transfer to European role. I was lucky to get a transfer to Europe as the European marketing manager based out of UK. And then but by this time, I moved there, and then by this time, I got tired of working for smaller companies. IT technology was a small company. Informatica was a small company. I needed more time to analyze things. I prefer to work on long-term projects than short-term projects. And smaller companies tend to change um, their strategy, their roadmap based on what happens in the market. And they have to. Small companies have to adapt quickly. Whereas the companies I used to work for, 3M and Ford, they work on a much larger plan. So you get to learn and then execute and then stick on to that plan for a longer time. Okay. And that is my preferred option. I realized that is where I feel most comfortable. So I wanted to work for a larger company. And then I looked for a larger company in the software sector. It was Microsoft. So after I moved to UK, in fact, I went and bought a house next to Microsoft campus. I started living next to Microsoft campus, even though I was working for another company. But 18 months later, Microsoft hired me. So this is where I make a point that if you have a strong desire, it will happen. Because of the travel required for me to be in every city, I convinced Microsoft. They were not open at the beginning, but they gave me a 6 months window to go and try it out, to work from my home so I decided to stay in Aluva, which is close to the Kochi airport. And then, I've so that I can get to the airport very quickly. So Microsoft gave me a 6 months experiment time to work from Kerala. And I started working from here. In fact, I had the best work-life balance. As many of you know right now that you don't have to get ready to go to school, right? To college. You can start right away, right? So morning, you're getting more free hours. And evening, you're getting more free hours because your commute time, your travel to Rajagiri has come down. This is not the case with those who are staying in the hostel, but those who are day scholars. Okay, you have saved some time. Okay, there are disturbances, but you have definitely saved the time to travel and the time to get ready. Okay, and that is what I was able to get back when I started working from home, which means I could work more hours, and I could spend more time with family, and I could take more time for my own exercise, walking in the morning and evening. So that I got more time, to be honest. And I still used to work, travel 8 to 10 days a month to all the cities. And that also was easy because the airport is close by and I could get there faster. In 6 months, by the end of the experiment, I got an email from Microsoft India Chairman Ravi Venkatesan, and then an SMS from my boss saying, James, please check your email. And 6 months after, I'm supposed to reconsider my decision whether this is okay to work from Kerala or do I need to go back to, in fact, Gurgaon, not Bangalore. But 6 months later, I got the highest award at Microsoft, the Circle of Excellence from Steve Ballmer, which means my performance went up significantly after I started working from my home in Kerala. So I've traveled around the world. Finally, I came back to my hometown in Kerala, started working from Kerala. I had the highest award in my professional career when I came back home. And then later on, and this is where the turning point, you asked me, what is the turning point of starting Jackfruit 365? Okay. So then 4 years, I continued to work from Kerala at a national level, and people didn't even know that I was working from Kerala. I was always available. I was present. I will be in the cities when there's a meeting. Otherwise, they know that I'm what I call my digital presence was more important than my physical presence. So people can see me. I'm always online. I'm always responding to emails. I'm on video call. I'm on audio call. I'm always available. And whenever there is a meeting, I'm always there. So they didn't see any change in me. I'm moving from Bangalore to Kerala. Only people in the Bangalore office noticed some change. Otherwise, others they didn't even notice at all. Okay. So in 2010, there was a CAI conference in Kochi, and the speaker from Microsoft who was supposed to be there had to cancel at the last minute. Okay, and they reached out to me, James, are you in town? I said, yes. Can you step in as a speaker? What is the topic? And they said the topic is unified communications, which is about virtual meetings, like the conference here right now. Okay, and that is what I use for my work. I always use digital technology, virtual meeting, desktop sharing, audio conference, video conference, all from my desktop. In fact, my children jokes, that I shout at the laptop all the time. I have to speak loud into a laptop, right? They're not used to. They see people speaking over the phone, or they speak, to someone. Here's I'm speaking to the laptop all the time, right? So that is okay. Dada shouts to the laptop all the time. He buries his head into the laptop, and that is where he shouts. Okay, I don't shout. I just speak louder. That's all. Even here. So that is how my life was. So I thought, I'll share this instead of talking about the technology. I will share my own personal experience. So when I spoke at this AI conference, Infosys co-founder Chris Gopalakrishnan was on stage, and I put the title of my presentation as "The Joy of Working for India and Living in Bharat." India is the metros where the economy is thriving, and Bharat are the villages of India. So I am living in a village in Alua, Desam, but I work for the big metros. My meetings are always in the big cities. So I then used how I use technology to make this happen. And Chris listened to my talk and he said, "James, I wanted to come back to Kerala. I could never do that. And I got stuck." He lives in Bangalore now. He said, "I got stuck. You have done that without compromising your career. You must document this so that more youngsters will get the courage to come back to their hometown. After they gain their experience, they would get the encouragement or the confidence to come back to their hometown and continue to work. Not take early retirement, continue to work." So in 2012, October 1st, I left Microsoft, and on Gandhi Jayanti, I started writing a book about my journey of coming home. Okay, and that is what this book is all about. God's own office. Can you see? Okay, and this is what. Okay, this is why I took a year off from my career at Microsoft, just to document my own journey of going abroad, to gain experience and to be a global professional, and then come back home to work from my village for the world. Okay, that was the experience I wanted to share for 1 year, and then get back to work. But unfortunately, while I was writing the book, I was writing from my cottage very next to the Kochi airport. From the attic, I was writing from the attic, and from the window, I could see a jackfruit tree. And in October 2nd, when I started writing the book, it was a small, what do we call, idichaka, okay, tender jackfruit, the small jackfruit. And by the time I finished the first chapter, it was December 15th. It became a baby hippopotamus. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I'm seeing it every day, right? And I realized, what? I grew up with this. It's going to go waste. Something should be done with it. Okay, we don't appreciate what we have in our backyard. And I grew up with this, so I know it is good. In fact, I have a maternal uncle who passed away recently, 87-year-old. So he used to tell me when I was a kid that if you have a jackfruit tree in your backyard, your life extends by 10 years. That's how healthy this chaka is. Okay, and but nobody knows why, but it's just a saying. Okay, so if it is so good, why can't I find a market for this? Okay, and now I'll tell you a story which I haven't told anyone. Okay, before leaving Microsoft, the role I was interested in as my career progression was the CEO of Microsoft Startup Incubator Program. Okay, and I was shortlisted as the best candidate for that. A startup incubator is where we hire youngsters. We bring in youngsters with the startup idea, and they spend 6 months in our facility, all taken care by Microsoft. We help them to build their ideas into technologies, and we bring them experts, bring in advisors, also introduce them to investors. So it is like a school where startup ideas will get graduated out. Okay, and I was working with the biggest companies in the world, with the HNIs in the world, So I had access to all of them, and I have global experience of understanding business models in different industries, so I could be a mentor to them. But the last moment was one thing which I didn't have, which failed. I didn't get the job. That I had no startup experience. I have always been a career professional, and they told you don't understand the challenges of startup as an entrepreneur. For you to advise others, you must have your own experience. It does not have to be a successful entrepreneur. Even a failed startup experience is a good experience for this, but you don't have that. So that was in the back of my mind that, okay, look, I missed that opportunity because I didn't have a startup experience. I didn't have a failed startup experience. So while I'm looking at this jackfruit, I said, okay, look, we should do something about it. And I took it to a chef. We made a burger out of it, and McDonald's was doing jackfruit burger. So we tried to make a jackfruit burger, and then the burger came out really well. So we used the jackfruit seed crumbs instead of breadcrumbs. Chakakuru, roasted jackfruit seeds as instead of breadcrumbs, and the inside was chakachola, unripe jackfruit, and it came out as a real good burger compared to the McDonald's vegetarian burger. Okay, it was tasty and it was healthy compared to the aloo burger or the potato burger. Okay, so but unfortunately that project failed. Okay, and then I learned about freeze-dried jackfruit. And then later on, by sheer accident, in fact, I took this idea to Eastern Chairman Nawaz Miran. I told him, "You are in the food business. You must you must add jackfruit as one of your products." And I made a presentation to him. And 45 minutes later, he told me, "James, for the last 45 minutes, and this is something which you should remember, last 45 minutes, James, I was not looking at the business case or why Eastern should get into jackfruit. I was looking at your passion for jackfruit. So your passion for jackfruit is what I notice as the biggest component here. If you're serious about it, you should start it. And I will support you completely as a mentor." And that is when I realized, okay, look, I lost that opportunity to be the CEO of the incubator because I didn't have a startup experience. And here is somebody is telling me that do not pass this idea to someone. You should start it on your own and get that failed startup experience. So that was my opportunity for getting a failed startup experience. And that is what came out as jackfruit365.com, my own startup idea. So that was the turning point of Jackfruit365. And now it's my 7th year. The rest is history. So I think I've just mentioned to you about my journey and how I got into Jackfruit365 and the biggest turning point. So the next one I was asked to cover is give an example of an obstacle, a major obstacle which I've come across, and how do you overcome those obstacles? And this is something which you must all be aware that even in your professional career, you're working for a company, you start your own idea. Things may not always turn out the way you want them to. Okay, and there will be roadblocks. There will be major, disappointments on the way. So you must find a way out. And in fact, this is what Nawaz Miran said, that, okay, James, if I give it to one of my employees on the first obstacle, it could get dropped. But if the person with the passion is behind it, you will find a solution for it. So let me give an example. Okay, so 2013 is when I launched Jackfruit365. 2014, a priest came and told me that, James, is it possible that the unripe jackfruit has insulin in it? Chakka has insulin in it. And I told him impossible. I've heard a lot of stories, but this is the weirdest of all. No way. Then explain to me, I'm taking insulin for 5 years, and last season, jackfruit season, I had chakapulka, the jackfruit meal for dinner one night, and I took my normal dose of insulin, and I collapsed. I fell down. My sugar level went too low. Okay, and it happened to him twice, and I got scared because by the time I was selling freeze-dried jackfruit online, as a proof of concept. Okay. And if somebody takes that and then has a similar incident with him and priest survived, but that is not the case with everyone. You don't have to, because if your sugar goes too low, it can be fatal. Okay. So I needed to understand, is there a risk in selling this product for diabetic patients? That was my worry. So from that, we started a major scientific research to see, is there any truth? Is it a one-off case, or is there anything in jackfruit which can cause this to more people? And from that journey, I went to significant research and a chance meeting with Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. That was in 2014 November. So 2014 October, my book got published. Penguin published the book, Godson Office. And then Penguin asked me, James, who would you like to send the first copy of your book to? And I just made a wish. Can you give it to Dr. Kalam? And they said, Dr. Kalam is also our author, so we have access to him. We will send the book to him. So the first copy was sent to Dr. Kalam. 2 weeks later, I got an email from Dr. Kalam asking for a meeting. And November 2015, I was at Dr. Kalam's house in Delhi. And then in the book, towards the end, I mentioned that I am now working for Jackfruit 365. So he was curious, how come a person from IT background working for Microsoft is now working on an agricultural produce? So he was curious. He wanted to know what I found in jackfruit, which makes me work on it. And then when I met him, I walked him through what I was doing with the freeze-dried jackfruit and the 5-star chefs. And then I told him, look, what I'm looking right now is this good for diabetes? And I showed him the data I've uncovered so far. He took 3 minutes and he paused and he said, he was silent for 3 minutes. He paused and he said, James, you're wasting your time with doctors. Because I was actually meeting a lot of doctors to find out, can you do some study on this? He said, the M in MBBS is medicine. This is not medicine. This is pure science, absolute science. A high fiber meal always translates to low absorption of sugar. Okay. And jackfruit is high fiber, which we all know. Okay. Is it okay when the food has more fiber, it travels through your intestine faster. Doesn't give enough time for the sugar absorption into your body. That is pure science. And as a scientist, he knows that better. Okay. He said there is nothing new about it. You don't need to do any study on that. That is given. But what is new here is it's possible to eat an unripe fruit as a meal. An unripe fruit as a meal, as an alternate to rice. So most fruits, when they are not ripe, the acidity is very high. So for example, mango. When it is not ripe, it's puliyana. The acidity is very high. You can't even make a thoran or a sabji out of green mango. Okay, because the acidity is very high. Same with apple. When it is not ripe, the acidity is very high. Jackfruit, when it is not ripe, the acidity is low. It is like kappa or like tapioca or potato. It is bland and neutral. That's why we are able to take a whole plate full of unripe jackfruit as a meal. And Dr. Kalam used to be in Kerala at the beginning of his career. So he said, I know this custom exists in Kerala, but not rest of India knows about this. Okay, so you must find a way to convince. But there is a problem. This chakapurukku or the jackfruit meal of Kerala won't scale beyond Kerala. Nobody else will be able to eat it because it's a very local custom. Okay, and he said, James, changing eating habits is worse than changing religion. Okay, nobody is going to change their eating habits. Whatever you grew up eating in your childhood is what you enjoy the most. You must find a way to add jackfruit to what people normally eat. Without changing their eating habits, if you can reduce rice or wheat with the green jackfruit, you come to me, I will help you scale this across India. Don't worry about seasonality of jackfruit. When jackfruit is not available in India, it's available in Brazil, we will import it. Talking about importing jackfruit, right? We are wasting every jackfruit in India right now. He's saying, don't worry, we will import it. Okay, so that is when he gave me the biggest push. He's like, okay, James, you go and you're an engineer. You go figure out how to add this to what people normally eat. Then you come to me. When someone like Dr. Kalam asks you, you can't ignorant. That is how powerful that ask was. Took me 18 months to crack. 18 months, 2 patents. In fact, today I sit here after 30 years of engineering college, I got my first patent in July in the last month. Okay, got the patent from India last month. And in June, we presented at the American Diabetes Association's annual conference. As an engineer, I presented a scientific study on jackfruit, why it is good for diabetes, how it brings down the blood sugar level. In 3 months, the HbA1c comes down. Okay, that is what I presented in June at the American Diabetes Association's annual conference in Chicago. Again, it was like a Zoom call like this. It was a virtual conference because of the pandemic. Okay, so in 2020, so Dr. Kalam asked me this 2014, right? In 2020, I presented this at American Diabetes Association's annual conference, and I won my patent. Okay? That's how far it takes, how long it takes from an ask to fruition. Okay, do we have the tenacity to see it through? Okay, now I'll show you the obstacles in between. 2015 September, I had a presentation in Trivandrum, at the Jackfruit Promotion Council. We had industries department, we had health department, we had agriculture department. I made a presentation to them. Jackfruit is the reverse gear for diabetes in India. It took us 54 years to get our coconut back because we didn't do our research. In fact, today's Manorama, WHO's head of non-communicable diseases, Dr. Cherian Varghese has written an article in today's Manorama's editorial page that we have 30 medical colleges, but we don't do our own research. We don't do enough research on our own diseases. Okay, and in fact, 2015 September, I made a presentation to the directors of all the departments. And in fact, the director of health, Dr. S. Jayashankar, at the time, it was in the press release after the meeting. He mentioned that, okay, we will fund a study on jackfruit for diabetes. It was on the press release, okay, 2015 September. 5 years later, we don't have a single study. Okay, I thought we have 30 medical colleges, and this is our state fruit. So someone will jump on it and we will do the study and then we'll have the results. Okay, so I counted on it, but it didn't happen. Okay, so, and some of these kind of ideas, so for example, when you do a study, the result can be positive or negative. There's no guarantee it is going to be positive, right? So from there, I'll tell you how, from the 2015 disappointment, how I presented in 2020 at the world's highest body on diabetes research, American Diabetes Association's annual conference, with a clinically proven study, a randomized controlled trial. Okay, many people helped me on the way. Okay, I mentioned about Dr. Kalam. Then I had many of my clients started taking Jackfruit 65 to control their blood sugar, and very positive feedback. They started buying again and again. And I'll share some of the people who helped on the way. So one of them is Dr. K.C. Maman. He was the founding director of Kolanjeri Medical College. He's a doctor from CMC Vellore. And he started trying my Jackfruit 65. And within a week, he called me and I had to go and meet him. And his wife is also a doctor. And they told me that we've been practicing medicine for 70 years. And you're not even a doctor. And we can't believe that this chakka, which is growing in front of our house, had this property to control blood sugar all these years, and we as doctors didn't know. You have no idea what you have done to us. And you have no experience in medicine, and you have told us this has a property which can help control blood sugar as an alternate to rice. So Dr. K.C. Maman, a veteran doctor, telling me, James, do not give up. You have no idea what you have uncovered. Be at it. Then another patient who was using my product to control blood sugar happened to be the wife of C. Balagopal, who started India's first blood bag business in Trivandrum. Most of you would know Penpol, Peninsula Polymers, how it was started. Terima Penpol is what the company is named now. So Bala then told me, James, my wife started taking this and suddenly we can see the blood sugar is coming under control. What an impact it is having. So, and C. Balagopal then discussed this with Dr. M.S. Vallithan, Padma Bhushan Dr. M.S. Vallithan was the founding director of Sri Medical College in Trivandrum. And Dr. Vallithan went through my research work. He went through the data. By the time I had made the jackfruit flour, what Dr. Kalam asked me to do, to add, to include jackfruit in what people normally eat, which is roti and idli. So I made a flour which can be added to dosa batter or idli batter and atta, wheat flour. And people won't have a clue that without changing what they're eating, without reducing the quantity of food, they're able to reduce the rice and wheat and increase jackfruit in it. So Dr. M.S. Lalitha looked at the data and he said there are two blockbuster developments here. One, you have uncovered Kerala's tradition of eating unripe jackfruit as a meal is good for diabetes. It's a big discovery and great for Kerala. But the bigger blockbuster is that by converting unripe jackfruit into a flour, into a powder form, anybody can have it. And that is a bigger blockbuster without changing eating habits. So Dr. M.S. Vallithan said, James, this is a significant development. You must publish this in the world's leading journals. And then I went and met him and he said, Dr. Vallithan, I have two options. And I still keep on knocking at medical colleges and doctors, and unfortunately I was not getting a success. Okay. So what I then asked Dr. M.S. Vallithan is that, Doctor, I have two options. Spend 2 crores and indefinite time and get this study published in an American or a diabetes journal around the world. Find a Malayalam Vidwan and prove that chakka is not a fruit. So he said, James, if you're aiming for Olympic gold medal, you practice in Olympic swimming pool. But since you're not a doctor, I can't ask you to. If you're a doctor, I would tell you, you must publish this in a leading journal, do the study and get it published. I did both. I went to the Malayalam University Vice Chancellor, Dr. Jayakumar, and I asked him, Sarai, chakka uri kayano paramano? Is chakka a fruit or a green? So he then said, okay, so you are the one behind chakka purukka that is good for diabetes. I've been reading about you. If you ask me that way, the correct answer is chakka is a ka. When it is ripe, its name is chakkaparam, like etakya and etaparam. So the chakka is a green fruit. It is a vegetable. When it is ripe, it becomes a fruit. A fruit is always sweet. Okay. So the chakka which we are eating is a salad. It is a vegetable. Okay. A salad is what doctors ask you to take when you become diabetic. Reduce your rice and eat a salad. Eat more green vegetables. This is a green fruit. It's a ka. Okay. And that was enough to convince the nutrition community that, okay, unripe fruit is a salad of Kerala. So which is as per the American Diabetes Association's guidelines, when you become diabetic or if you want to avoid becoming diabetic, 50% of your plate should be green, vegetable. 25% of your plate should be protein. And only 25% should be carbohydrate, which is rice or wheat. Whereas in Kerala, we have half of a plate rice or rice products or wheat. And 25% protein and maybe less than 25% vegetables. And that is the reason why we become diabetic. We take too much carbohydrate than recommended. Okay. When we eat chakka during jackfruit season, in fact, during this April, May, Kerala had the highest consumption of jackfruit because of the lockdown and the pandemic. Everybody started using jackfruit. In fact, they even made a jackfruit milkshake with jackfruit seed, chakkaguru. Okay. So that when you eat jackfruit as a meal, chakkapurukka, 50% of the plate is a salad. And 25% is your fish curry or protein. And then you may have some rice. Okay. So that is how when you get a balanced, a samikrita aharam or a balanced plate. Okay. So whenever we are eating the traditional jackfruit meal, we are getting a balanced plate. We are getting a traditional, what the ADA's recommended plate. So that was the first part of it. I want the plate method, that chakka is actually good for diabetes. And I ran the campaign, Urinneran Chakka Uripadu Nanma. And that increased the consumption of jackfruit across Kerala. In fact, over these 6 years, we have seen more and more vegetable shops selling jackfruit, more and more people eating jackfruit. That is the positive side of it. And then finally, I went ahead and did a randomized controlled trial in Andhra Pradesh where there is no jackfruit. And we got the study completed in randomized controlled trial, the way medicine is tested. And we got the results with fantastic results. In fact, it is so impressive that in 3 months, we could demonstrate that when they take 3 tablespoons, 1 tablespoon for breakfast, 1 tablespoon for lunch, 1 tablespoon for dinner, when they add it to their putta, dosa, appam, 1 tablespoon, um, lunch along with yogurt, 1 tablespoon, dinner along with chapati. With your wheat flour, if you add 1 tablespoon, if you take that for 90 days, your HbA1c comes down. Okay, those who are in high HbA1c, it comes down. Those who do not have diabetic, it prevents them becoming diabetic. In fact, so that is what I presented at the American Diabetes Association's annual conference in June this year. So what I told you is that the biggest obstacle I faced in 2014, that I was not getting any support. And in 2015, I got the commitment from the Director of Health at the time. But for next 5 years, no study happened in Kerala. But I still overcame those obstacles and got the study done by myself and got it published in the world's best journal, what Dr. M.S. Varadhan asked me to do. The journal's name is Diabetes. So ADA's journal Diabetes, my paper is presented and published there, okay, with significant results. So I'm just giving an example of how you see the obstacle. I could say I could give up. Look, medical college is not doing it. What can I do? I could give up. And that is how you approach, because you can't give up. Okay, Anita, I would pause here. Let's see if there are any questions. I think I would say what my first boss at 3M, he told me when I was leaving 3M for Warwick, he told me, James, your biggest strength is your sincerity to your goals, your sincerity to your work. You are very clear that you have no other agenda. You want to see this through. He said, is there a truth in it? If there's a truth in it, you want to see this through. So I was always sincere with my goal. Okay, so if there is, so here is what I always said. If there is any truth in unripe jackfruit is good for diabetes, if chakka is good for diabetes, if there is any truth in it, I should not fail, because it will be a huge loss for the society. Because every person in Kerala and many parts of India, this is growing in the back of their house, right? It is available free for them. If there is an iota of truth in it, I mean, please don't make me fail. If I give up, it'll be a huge loss for humanity. Okay, so if I'm sincere to myself, if I'm sincere to my society, I shouldn't give up, right? And if there is no truth in it, I should give up this as soon as possible and get back to my profession where I come from. Okay, and if there is truth in it, we must scale this as quickly as possible, so that, because I mean 1 in 2 household in Kerala has a diabetic person. Okay, and India has an exploding situation of diabetes. Okay, I mean we have 74 million people in diabetes and pre-diabetes, and it is growing fast. And when look at this year, okay, everybody is aware of the risk of diabetes now. Like diabetes and COVID is the biggest clash. Okay, COVID as such is okay. Okay, but if you have a comorbidity, if you have a lifestyle disease like diabetes, and then if you get COVID-19, then you are a high risk patient, right? So what is in our control? In our control is what to bring our blood sugar under control through diet. Through food, we can bring it down. Okay, we can't control the virus to 100%. We can take all the precautions, but even if the virus slips through the net and gets to you, if you are fit, if you are healthy, if you don't have diabetes, if you're maintaining a good, all non-communicable diseases are under control, then the virus will pass through you. You will be fine. And that is what we can do to our parents. We can help them control the blood sugar right now, so that even if the virus gets to them, they're prepared. And I mean, April, May, you saw that everybody's, and I was happy. April, May, people were eating jackfruit more than rice. And I was so happy. Okay. But that is not the case now. We are back to rice. Okay. And people are gaining more weight now. People are, so when, if there is truth in it, this is a huge opportunity for Kerala, huge opportunity for India, huge opportunity for mankind. So my sincerity to that mission is my strength. This is an old one, but I'll explain how I started that, and then I'll explain where we are right now. Okay. So when I started off, remember I mentioned this was for a failed startup experience, right? So I had no interest in, continuing with Jackfruit 365 when I started off. And when I moved back to India, from my salary, a percentage of money used to go to Akshay Patra to support midday meals program. And I grew up in a village where midday meals brought children to the village school. And I see that the impact of the midday meal, parents who could not afford a meal would send their children to school. So at least one meal they get from the school. And Kerala is much better off now, but the rest of it is not. Okay. So I used to contribute to Akshay Patra, which provides midday meals to schools across India from my salary. When I left, I had no salary. Right, so that got paused. Okay. So what I did was, from every pack of jackfruit, whenever some Jackfruit 365, the freeze-dried version, whenever somebody buys online, I created a campaign: buy one, save one, give five. Okay, which means when you buy one packet of Jackfruit 365, you save one jackfruit, because one pack, a 5 kg jackfruit is actually getting into a pack in freeze-dried form will be 180 gram. So you're saving one jackfruit which would have gone waste. Okay, one jackfruit you save. You buy one, you save one. And from each pack, we were giving, from the revenue, we were giving to Akshay Patra 5 midday meals worth of money. So that was my, so everything else was paid to suppliers and my partners. And my only part was I would give this 5 meals worth of money to Akshay Patra. So that is how the model was worked out. So we ran it for 3 years like that. And then when the diabetes thing came in, I had raised capital, and then we had to start investing in, and now it is investors' money. So I have not continued that campaign after the 3 years. Now we are looking very good now. So hopefully once the all the loans are paid for, we'll be able to get back to the midday meal program. So this is something which I had at the beginning of the Jackfruit 365 journey, because remember at the time it was not even an entrepreneurship journey; it was an idea. Okay, so it was, I had nothing to do with it. I was not taking any single penny from it. Everything was going to Akshay Patra. That is how it started. But then it became a serious venture, and then you have other responsibilities. So that is right now it is running as a normal enterprise. But we will be making a big contribution if we get to where we are hoping to get to. The greatest difficulty is it's indefinite. You don't know how long it is going to take. Okay, but the biggest, so let me explain. So when you are, okay, I'll tell you what my family feels the biggest difficulty. I don't have a vacation. I used to have a life where it was Monday to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Friday evening, everything will be packed. We'll be on road trips, come back on Sunday evening. Monday, I'm recharged, I go to work. So weekends, I used to spend, a lot of travel time with family, go around. Then regularly, I would take holidays, and I will send notice to everyone so nobody disturbs me when I'm on holiday. Travel, go, be with, nature, and visit places, relatives. So that all, lot of, work-life balance through travel used to happen during my time as a professional for a job. Because when you take leave, somebody else is there to cover you. Okay, So you have a team who will look after your role. When you come back, you can catch up on it, and everybody understands that you need to go on vacation. Okay. But when you are on your own startup, it's 24/7. Okay, everything is through your head. There is nobody to cover you. Okay, so that, but at the same time, can you pause? You can pause, right? But every day lost takes many weeks to catch up, right? And everything which and you're also learning on the way, right? Whereas in a career, you learn and you repeat that. Okay, so whereas with your own entrepreneurship and startup journey, look, I never anticipated that I will be researching on diabetes. I will become a scientist presenting in scientific conferences on diabetes, right? This is not my cup of tea. This is not my area of expertise. But I had to learn every day, 90 minutes, I learn about nutrition. Okay, because I had to. Okay, I probably know more about nutrition than many people who are practicing. Okay, so in fact, I've been invited as a faculty in scientific conferences to speak about nutrition. Right? So because I had to learn and learn and learn a lot more than what I was doing when I was working at Microsoft. Right? So because of that, you spend a lot more time than you would be when you're working somewhere. So that took time away from family, but they all know that it's for a good cause. Okay, that is even my children. They're supported because they know that. Okay, and whenever we hear feedback from people who said, okay, look, my sugar level has been controlled. I mean, it's come back to normal without medication. I've been de-prescribed from medicine. In fact, one feedback from a senior person in Kerala, and he told me that it not only saved me money, pain, it also saved me embarrassment. And he said his biggest embarrassment was with clients when he goes for lunch, he had take the insulin and take the injection in front of everyone else. And that was the biggest embarrassment. Now he doesn't need to use insulin. So look at that. My quality of life has improved significantly. When my children hear that, they know that I'm working for a good cause. Let me answer that. So you must observe everything which is going around you. Okay, I'll how things happen to you is that a focus. Okay, so let me I'll tell you what the success mantra I consider as it's about focus. Okay, do you know what you want to do? Okay, in fact, how do I constantly remind myself about my focus? In fact, I mentioned that in my book. I use my password, my login password, to remind me about my focus. What is my goal? Okay? Constant focus. How many times do you log in? Right? Your camera screensaver can be something which to remind you. So focus is number one. Okay, I call it constant focus. Number two is conviction. Do you have full conviction this is what you want to do? Okay, okay, so do I have full conviction that I want to see Jackfruit if I succeed? I want to make sure that, every plate, at least in Kerala, has an option. When every plate when people take, they get 1 spoon of jackfruit flour to help them control their blood sugar, to prevent, to control, and to reverse their blood sugar condition. Okay, is it worth? Do I have the strong conviction? Is it worth an indefinite time of mine? Absolutely, I have that strong conviction. Okay, so focus, constant focus, strong conviction, and continuous progress. Even if it is 1 inch, you're moving towards your goal. It gives you positive energy. So you should always watch: are you making progress, however slow that is? If you're making progress towards your goal, that will reinforce you. So my success mantra is focus, but you need to observe to get your focus. Okay, constant focus, continuous progress, constant focus, strong conviction, and continuous progress. These are three my success mantras. I was working for a supply chain management consultant. Okay, which means big corporations, they're in their supply chain management. Supply chain management, it's logistics. It is about if a customer buys a product, you need to make the product available to the customer. Then you have to manufacture the product. Then you have to buy all the supplies, raw materials for that. So the entire process from your raw material supplier to the end consumer, that is called the supply chain. So in jackfruit recipe, that would be a jackfruit in Parasala, a tree in Parasala, getting it to a customer in Siliguri, okay, in the powder form. That entire process is called supply chain. So that supply chain management at I2 Technologies is what I learned and what I practiced. Okay, I'll give an example. Okay, how that helped me today, right? During the COVID lockdown, Amazon warehouses went down. Amazon stopped supplying, and we were supplying through Amazon. We have retail shops in Kerala, and we have factories. So we had setbacks everywhere. I mean, the first 3 weeks, factory was shut down. This is peak jackfruit season. March, April is peak jackfruit season. Lockdown, all factories are shut down. Okay, if I miss the window of the season, I will miss the year. Okay, what I then did was I went through hoops, get the central government notification that food processing units should not be stopped. And I used that, I got the permission, and I said, okay, food is most critical during the pandemic. Okay, and jackfruit and agricultural income is important. So if jackfruit processing is not happening, agriculture income goes down. The farmer doesn't get the money. The central government direction was no food processing units should be stopped. So finally, in 3 weeks, we were able to restart production. Okay, then I looked at, okay, look, there is going to be containment zone, there is lockdown. It can be, Bangalore city can go down, Delhi can go down, because wherever the pandemic explodes, the warehouse can go down. So we had to manage 3 different locations, simultaneous inventory. Okay, and in Kerala also, all different warehouses, we had to manage multiple inventories, because if one factory goes down, and all of this happened during the pandemic, because I had planned the supply chain inventories and supply chain management in advance. Because of my I2 experience, we were able to give uninterrupted supply to our consumers around India and Middle East. Okay, so that is, I had no idea that my supply chain experience will ever come back to of use. But you know what? This is what you go through all the experience, you learn it, and you never know when you will need it. So that supply chain experience helped me to prevent disruption. In fact, we had phenomenal growth during June and July, and now growing in August. Okay? So when everything else is going down, we're having a significant growth because of the American Diabetes Association study results. People have got more conviction and confidence that, okay, this product really works. And then they have access to buy the product. We made it available in every local shop in Kerala. In fact, we ran a campaign that we will come to the shop next to you. If you can't come to the supermarket, we will make it available at the local shop. That became the biggest marketing campaign for us in Kerala.
How do we inspire people to be successful? Well, we all might have lots of examples for that. But how do we inspire people who are already successful to aim for much greater things? My answer would be your story, sir. It takes a lot of courage and determination to move out of one's comfort zone, and that's why most of the people settle with what they already have. But you, despite being a successful engineer, aimed for something new, something much bigger. And I'm sure your story will inspire every person to dream a new dream, not just during their lows, but also when they are at heights. And one prominent thing that I remember about our last meeting is the positivity that was reflected from your persona. And I'm sure this session has created ripples of positivity among our audience. So, sir, thank you so much for joining with us today and for inspiring each one of us. And I'm sorry for the disturbances that was caused in between the meeting. Thank you for bearing with us, and thank you so much for joining with us. Thank you, sir.
One of the well-organized meeting, started on time, and I think it was very professionally organized. And you guys are doing a fantastic job. And I'm in very professional work. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. In fact, being with students gives me a lot of positive energy. You are the future.